Okay, I welcome you to another episode of Learning Stories. This is an audio and video show where we interview a diverse set of learners from the 21st century. On each episode of this show, we interview a guest who has a story to share about how they acquired a set of skills and knowledge in a creative and innovative manner. In the process, we hope to uncover a new understanding of learning as conceptualized, imagined, and narrated by the guest on our show. Today's guest, Neha Modi, is someone who I first came across through our shared love for books. She has a wonderful Instagram account where she reviews books and talks about the books that she loves, which I will be linking in the show notes. But a little bit about Neha and her multifaceted career before we jump into this conversation. So, Neha Modi is a chartered accountant by profession and an academician and book blogger by passion. While teaching was her childhood dream, it only truly called out to her after a brief stint in the corporate world. She soon transitioned to academia, joining a management institution as a finance faculty. Motherhood brought with it new priorities, and for over a decade, Neha worked with a private coaching setup. 3 years ago, she took the leap to start her own private tuitions firm. And it was a home venture driven by a simple yet powerful idea to support students who struggle in traditional classroom settings. Her sessions offer more than just academic guidance, they're built around boosting confidence, nurturing individuality, and really supporting the students where they are at. While she's not teaching, Neha is immersed in the world of books. A thriller before bedtime is her non negotiable brain workout, and her book blog is a vibrant expression of that love. She curates book recommendations, creates engaging literary content, and connects with fellow bibliophiles who share her passion for reading, me being one of them. So I've had a few conversations with Neha offline, and I've always enjoyed talking to her about books, and we're part of the same sort of communities in a city like Bombay. But um, Neha, I'm curious about your childhood. Thank you for making time for this. And the first question we normally start with is, or we ask our guests is, tell us some stories from your childhood. Where did you grow up? Off the top of your head, what school did you go to? What was your parents' influence on your journey? And maybe you can tell me some stories with books as well, because that's such a big part of your life.
Hi, Abhishek. So, thank you for having me here. And going to my childhood, so I am from Jaipur, and my entire education was done over there. Uh, and one story that I always like to share, and which has actually been a part of my journey, is that how my mom used to save her pin money to bring books for us. And that was, I mean, she's the first person in her family who had completed graduation.
Mm.
And she had a dream that, my kids should always, be with books, they should be properly educated. And uh, that's the reason why she used to always spend money on books rather than anything else. And my father has also been a reader. He reads a lot. So our love for reading comes from there. And we are three sisters, and all three of us read a lot. And it's like a mini book club for us also, because we do share a lot about books with each other. So that's one thing. I think that's the foundation for the love for books and the love for education.
Yeah, like that's fascinating, Neha, because if you had those two encouraging adults that really wanted to encourage you to read, and your sisters were also, readers in that sense. But how did that intersect with your studies at school? Like, were you reading outside school? Were you, equally academically bright? So I'm curious about your time at school. Like, what was Neha like as a student at school?
So, my journey as a student has been a roller coaster ride. I was a very bright student. towards the beginning, like those students who would get 100 on 100 in every subject. I was like that. So until third standard, everything was so bright for me academically. After that, I started. I got distracted, or I kind of just drifted away from studies for a bit. For like 4 5 years, I was completely out of that zone of studying, and I would simply get average marks. But somewhere I was always connected to books, because our library in school was one place where I spent a lot of time. The librarian had to literally tell me that she's not going to issue me more books, because every second day I would go and I would ask her to renew my books. So that never stopped for me. uh, but when I came in ninth standard, that is the time when I again started, started taking my studies very seriously, because every second day I would go and ask for a new book. And she would be, so, later on she started telling me to read a little slow, and I had to then stop taking so many books. But yeah, that was one thing. In ninth standard, I started taking my studies seriously again, and that was the time when I started taking my career seriously, and I started excelling at studies. So
Yeah, like I'm curious about growing up in Jaipur, Neha. Like, did you read in English primarily, or you were also reading in Hindi, or any of your other local languages from that state? I'm just thinking about your exposure in terms of, because I think that's one unique part about growing up in India. We are immersed in so many different languages. So, did you have any experience reading in other languages as well?
so predominantly at my place, we spoke English and Hindi. So most of the times it was English only, because in school we had strict rules about talking in English, and so my medium of education has always been English. And though Hindi was not a major part of growing up, but I still had an affinity for both the languages.
Hmm. Yeah, like so. I think that does help in developing your reading imagination in terms of like the kinds of stories you are, exposed to, and that's very interesting that you said you read in, these two languages, or you were exposed to it through listening to it from an audio experience. But in the ninth standard, you said, you moved into this academic focus. And I know it's been such a long time since then, but, in India, we do have a couple of streams that most students channelize themselves into. So, was it commerce, arts, or science? What kind of school board did you go into? Um, what was the motivation behind choosing the subjects you chose, and how did you eventually explore that high school and university phase?
So honestly, I was a little clueless about what I actually wanted to do. So I think my father understood that I'm not very clear on the, you know, profession I want to pursue. So he, being a chartered accountant, he said that, now that you have completed your 12th standard, I'm from CBSE all through. So he said that now that you've completed your 12th standard, why not we fill the chartered accountancy examination form? And I was like, okay, since I don't know anything, I'm not sure what I want to do, let me try my hand at that. So when I filled the form, I gave the exam, and the last day of the exam, I came and I told him, I don't think so I'm going to clear this exam, and I think I now know what I want to pursue, and that's fashion designing. And he was like, let's wait for the result. Anyways, I'm not going to let you do fashion designing, but let's wait for the result and see what happens. And Abhishek, you won't believe, I cleared the exam with very good marks. And my father was, now what do you want to do? So
Yeah, because sorry, Neha, go
uh,
ahead.
there was no looking back then, that, to something else. Then it was chartered accountancy for me.
Yeah, because I mean they're like two different sort of fields, right? Yeah, there's chartered accountancy and there's fashion designing, and I know that chartered accountancy exam is one of the hardest exams to clear. And people take years and years of training to actually clear it. So the fact that you were able to clear those exams means that there was something there that, or a natural inclination towards those subjects. So what was that journey like? Your early life as a chartered accountant. You were quite young when you cleared it, and I know there's a articleship period in like a CA course. So did you eventually pursue that, and what about this curiosity for fashion design? And I know with CA you normally do the college degree along with pursuing your articleship. So what was Neha learning at that point of time?
So, I enjoyed that period a lot because in college, we actually didn't go to college much. So it was mostly proxy attendance, which was a compulsory thing. We spoke to our teachers sometimes and we asked them permission for, that attendance and everything. So college studies would get covered along with the chartered accountancy studies. So I was not focusing much on my college exams. But one thing that I clearly remember, and I really cherish those days of my college, was in my first year of college, I watched all the movies first day, first show. So that was something like I enjoyed also. And yet I was also studying very sincerely towards my examination. So that was one thing. And another fact about me, which a lot of people are surprised to know, is that I have never taken a formal coaching for my chartered accountancy exam. So I have cleared my exams studying on my own. So it has been self study for me through and through. Now, what I used to do was, I am a night owl. So I used to sit at 10 p.m. and study till 6 a.m. And then my mom would wake up and she would start with the work, and I would go and sleep. I would sleep till the lunchtime. And that used to be my routine for like 5 years, because that's how long it took to complete my chartered accountancy and my graduation. So, and of course articleship was there in between. So I was in a mid-sized firm, which was my father's friend's firm. So I had the exposure of the entire kind of work that is supposed to be done as a chartered accountancy profession. So
Now, because I'm thinking about your life as a book as well, Nia. Like if you were a character in a book, you would probably be someone that's very academically bright, self-motivated, um, someone that makes such hard tasks seem quite easy, at that point of time. But I think something you mentioned about movies, what kind of movies do you remember watching that really stayed with you at that time? So those stories, tell me a little bit about that.
so actually it was just a thing that I had to make a record of watching all the movies first day first show. I never cared what I was watching. So for me, I mean, if there's a movie, Neha is going to watch that movie. That was the only target. And surprisingly, my father never, my father or my mother, they never discouraged me from doing it. They were like, yes, you need to enjoy your college life and you also need to study. So I was doing both the things together, and they were the ones who would, buy me tickets and let me go. So
That's very sweet because I think it helps you balance, the rigorous academic life with something a little more enjoyable, right? And I feel like now your love for books in some ways also, helping you with that, though you do it in so many different ways with your reviews and, your Bookstagram account. So at that point of time in your life, Nia, were you fixed on taking up this journey with chartered accountancy, or I know in the intro we mentioned that there were several other changes, and so what were you thinking, career-wise and your personal life-wise? How were things changing for you at that time?
so I had thought of uh, taking up a career in corporate world, but I very soon, and I'm grateful for that, I very early I realized that teaching is something that comes very naturally to me, and that is something I really enjoy. And that also happened because of a project that I had taken during my corporate stint. I was supposed to roll out a software and train the people in all the branches across India. So I did that for 3 months, and a lot of positive feedback came with respect to the kind of training I was able to give them. And they were so that is when I realized that I think teaching is something that I really enjoy. And also during my school days, I used to teach my youngest sister. She still remembers because she was someone who would not want to study, and most of her notes were not complete. And even if I had my exams and my studies to take care of, I would ensure that she is prepared for her exams. So I think it comes from there that I was so academically drawn towards and I wanted to pursue uh, teaching as a career. So that's when I thought I need to switch. I mean, corporate job is not for me. So I tried. I just walked into one of the closest management institute near my place. I just walked in. I said that I saw an ad, and I think you require a faculty in finance. This is my resume, and you can call me for an interview. So, and they were like, "Okay, did we even post an ad?" But I just and it happened that after like a month or so, I got a call from there, and they asked me to join as a visiting faculty for a year. And then after being a visiting faculty for a year, I was given a proper permanent job over there. For 3 years I was teaching there. And I have taught there's a course called part-time MBA or executive MBA. So I used to teach finance. I used to teach accountancy to people who were of my father's age.
Wow. And you were like very, very young at that point, right, Neha? And like
Yeah,
really,
I
uh,
was just 24 at that time.
wow. That's quite interesting because it's not a natural career sort of path for someone that has a chartered accountancy qualification, but it's still, I think at that age, it's very hard to discern and make that decision between choosing something that is giving you a certain career graph and understanding what you are really good at and what you are really inclined towards. I think most people in their early 30s and sort of realize that, but I think for you it happened at a sort of much younger age in that sense. But post that, Neha, like how did you continue your journey in teaching? I'm curious about, because I think you've been teaching for 10 to 15 years now, if I'm not wrong, right? So, or even more for that matter. So, like, based on this entire experience as a teacher, what do you think good teachers do that really help students based on your experience?
Yeah, so after teaching for 3 years with the Management Institute, I took a break for the next 3 years because I had my elder son and I was taking care of him, and I was not ready. And probably he was also not ready to, let me go and work. So when that happened after 3 years, I started with a private coaching institute. And so in a private coaching institute kind of a setup, it's not exactly a classroom setting of 40 or 50 students, but there's a limited number of students. And you can pay personal attention, you can understand each student very intimately, because uh, how what are the difficulties they are facing, what are they good at, where they require help. So I really liked that kind of setting, but I still felt that there were some students who would not open up in front of others. And they there I felt a need of one to one coaching. So then I had my second my younger son. So again, I could not actually, even though I wanted to, I cannot start on my own. But then when he was 3 years old, and I thought he was settling and things looked pretty good to me, career wise, then I thought then I should take a leap and I should start on my own. The first year was difficult also, and I had the support of my family, and my son helped me get the first student because he spoke to his friends and he told that my mom is a teacher and she's starting her own classes, so in case you want to come to my place and we could study together. So that's how I got my first student. So and then it has been good. I am getting good response, the parents are happy, the students are happy, and I think I've grown in these 3 years. The first year I had two students, and from that two now I'm coaching six students. So yeah.
That's, uh, I mean, that's quite commendable, Neha, because, in a way, you are like an entrepreneur in your own regard, right? Because you are in charge of your time. You have realized that you have a skill for teaching, but you are also working with students independently and not in a regular sort of school setup. And I think the way you were able to understand where your skills can meet students' needs, because I'm sure there is a high degree of trust and that parents do require in such a setup, right? And I think you can't just build that trust by overnight, right? You have to build a good relationship. So I think, like any good sort of service, you over time develop that credibility and that trust with students and parents. And I remember in one of our conversations, you said that it's your focus to work with students that are really struggling. They are the ones that may not get the attention they need in a large classroom setup. And I think in most classrooms in our country, we have large teacher student ratios. So if a student is struggling with like a math concept or a language concept, it's hard for them to take out that individual time from the teacher. And I don't think it's the teacher's fault too, because they have so many responsibilities and limited time, right? So like in your situation, like what are some of the subjects you teach? And without naming the students, if you could tell me how like some interventions as a teacher helped a particular student, so for other parents and other teachers listening, they understand that this is one way to maybe support a student. So some stories about the students you have worked with, again protecting their privacy, so not naming them, but what did you observe as a teacher in those contexts?
uh, so I felt the need for starting on my own when I realized that even the coaching classes across, they want to teach the students. So during my time at teaching at the coaching institutes, I realized that coaching institutes across also want to take up students who are good with academics, as in they are around 70 to 80% marks scoring kind of students. And and I felt that, I mean, they're not wrong, because obviously they're there to earn, and they also want that the image of the institute should be maintained, so they want good students who will score better. But then those are not the students who really need help. The students who score around 40-50% are the ones who actually need help, and one-to-one help is something that really brings them out. And so I had a student who used to be a very good student, but when she came in class 5 and 6, she started, she was very distracted. She had issues with friends. She had issued with her own image. So when she and her mom came to me, and we talked about teaching her. So I said, okay, we'll begin with each subject. And when we started, we were talking about so many other things, because when you're in a one-to-one setting, you just not speak about the subject that you're teaching, but you also talk about their personal life, what are their feelings, how they are doing in school, and everything. And that girl, she mentioned that, she feels that she's not good, in the sense she's not good in her studies, she doesn't look good. So she had a lot of body image issues and she had a very low confidence. I spoke to her mother and I realized that her parents decide everything for her, like what is she going to wear, how is she going to tie her hair, how is she going to travel to my place. And it was not very far from my place, so she could easily come on her own also, but they would not allow her. And that was somewhere not letting her grow. So then I spoke to them and I told them that they need to give little decision making liberty to her. And so gradually they started with this. So first thing we did was she started coming on her own to my place. The first day she came to my place on her own, she was so happy, and she said that I felt so good, I felt free today, that and I felt that I can do this. So somewhere that confidence was boosted. And then gradually I spoke to the parents and let her take decisions about her clothes, even if she may not wear proper clothes, but that's okay, it's her decision. And that gradually helped. So for 2 years that girl was with me, and now she is doing very well. And I even now we meet, and her parents are also in touch with me. And the stories that they narrate, I mean, they keep telling me that you did this for us, you made us realize this, and that gives me happiness. So
Now, like I feel like that's one of the joys of teaching, right, Neha? Over the long term, when you see your students, do so well and they come back and meet you, you realize you were a small part of that journey, but some of those decisions actually played such a big role. And what's interesting is it's hard to quantify this intervention, right? From a numbers perspective, like you can't say that you qualified for an exam or you got a 90%. But I think in the child's psyche, this intervention is as important as scoring well in an exam, right? And I think to notice something like that, you have to be very empathetic. And I don't feel like that is very easy to do if you don't build a good relationship, because I don't think children will share such vulnerable thoughts with everyone, right? They have to feel safe with you. And even my background, like in teaching and in the classroom, I realized that in addition to teaching the curriculum, you have to make them feel safe and excited and curious about the subject. When they feel all of these things, then learning the curriculum becomes very easy, because they're not stressed or tensed. And I find that very challenging, where you want to create that joy for the kid, but you also want them to learn. So how do you balance that? And do you feel like being a parent yourself has helped you understand that line better of knowing the emotional and intellectual capabilities of a child? Like, how did you get to doing this the way you do it?
so initially when I started, I was also a little not sure whether this would work or not. But fortunately, I have always come across parents who have understood this part. So, parents ask me, are you going to take some tests before the exams? Are you going to, give us marks how the children are performing? So I tell them, the school is taking enough exams for your children. I don't want my classes to become another burden for them. It should be a joy for them, and they should be willing to come here. They should not feel that, again, we have to give an exam. So, that I make very clear. Some parents do feel that no, 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 without a test, we can't find out whether our kids are doing good. So, they don't enroll with me, which is okay, because not everybody would feel the same. But there are parents who understand this and they are okay with it. It also comes from the fact that I don't force my own children to, with those numbers. I never judge them on the basis of what marks they are getting. If they are sincerely studying, if they are good with games, if they are not too much into devices, they are playing, I'm good with that. So it and so my kids also have these stories to tell, so they also when they speak to the students who come, so that also uh, kind of reinforces the fact that I'm not here to judge you based on your numbers, based on your marks that you're getting. There are enough judges to do that. I am not going to do that. So recently, in fact, yesterday only, I have a student who hates to read. So he's not willing to read the chapters. He only tells me that you ask me all the questions, I will give you the answers, but I'm not going to read the chapters. And I feel that reading a chapter is very important. And nowadays in schools also, they're not really reading the chapters with the students. They show the presentations based on the chapters or the videos, so somewhere that reading is not happening. So I always encourage that. So with him, what I did was I told him, okay, let's play a game. I will ask you questions, you give me an answer. If you give the correct answer, I don't ask you to read that part, but if you give me a wrong answer, you'll have to read that part. And he was like, okay. And I knew that 70% he will not be able to answer because he's not read the chapter. And that happened. So in a way, I made him read 70% of the chapter, which I think is a big win for me and for him also, because he'll perform good in his exams, which will ultimately boost his confidence. So
I love that. It's a very creative way to encourage that habit of reading, right, Neha? And like, are you, because you're a reader yourself, Neha, you're such an avid reader, but you're also a parent, you're a teacher. And, with the advent of technology, especially in the last 20 years, I feel like you have an interesting vantage point of growing up in a world, because I know um, for a long time we didn't have access to so many tools, right? And then suddenly in the 2000s, I think we were inundated with this huge outflow of media tools. And like, what are your thoughts on this intersection of technology, like access to technology, and the development of reading habits, both from the perspective of a parent and teacher? Like, what are your suggestions for other parents, trying to navigate this sort of dilemma of encouraging and building readers, but also navigating this device access sort of space?
okay, so there are two things here. One, a lot of parents keep saying that we want our kids to read. And I ask them, do you read in front of your kids? Have your
Mm.
kids seen you reading? If not, how can you force something on your children when you yourself aren't doing it? So I always encourage them to read first. And since I have a library at home, I keep telling my friends, the parents of my students, everybody to take as many books as you want to take and read, discuss with me. I am, I'm glad to do that. So that is one thing that I, keep telling all the parents. And when it comes to devices, i I feel there is an age when you need to expose your kids to the devices, and there has to be a supervision. So in my house there's a rule of 1 hour every day. So 1 hour my kids get devices, but it is also reward based. So I keep telling the parents to do that. Also, I have sometimes come across people saying that book reading is a very expensive hobby. We have to buy so many expensive books. Then I tell them, you cut down one weekend of going to a mall or going to a theater, and you'll be able to buy 4 books for your children. So it's just a weekend of not going to the theater or not going to the mall, and you can buy 4 books. And I think that's more precious than going to that mall or theater or just an outing. So that is something I always tell parents. And yes, I do have stories where parents have you know are grateful to me, that they keep telling me that because of you our kids have become readers, we have become readers, because we want to encourage that habit in our children. So yeah, that is something I really love to hear. So, and I keep telling them that whether they get good marks or not, but if I'm able to convert them into readers, I'm sure they will do very well in their life in future.
Yeah, because I love that, Nia. I feel like one of the best gifts you can give a child is the gift of reading, developing a love for it. And I like what you said is such a big problem, even in a city like Mumbai or Delhi or Bengaluru, right? To access age appropriate books for children reading, because I don't think uh, like there's a lot of adult fiction that would not be appropriate for children at a particular age, right? So I think having, and I know in the West, and I think we have like a discussion about this where we can exchange books and build a community of parents that have similar children's libraries. But in the West, you have libraries where kids can borrow as many books as they want. Unfortunately, in our setup, we don't have these as widespread. You have certain libraries in certain parts of the city that can give you that access. So how do you? I mean, your situation's interesting because you are a reader yourself, right, Neha? And love you understand the long-term impact of an investment in books. But what if a parent is not a reader themselves, but they want their children to access a rich collection of age-appropriate books? Living in a city like Mumbai or Delhi or Calcutta or Bengaluru, how do they do that without I get your point of, skipping a weekend, but is there a workaround where it doesn't have to be so cost intensive, where, you can find a way to build a community of other people that have books, just this access to books, how do you creatively navigate that problem as a parent to give your children access to a wide library?
So there are quite a few libraries which run in Mumbai as well, and I am associated with one of them. And she has done a wonderful job of providing age appropriate books. She herself is so dedicated towards this cause, and she always gives recommendations in case the parents are confused about what books to give to their children. And in fact, she has a website. She's recently launched her website where she has all the different library plans. So there is a beginner's plan which is very cost effective, and it's not a big dent on your pocket, and also the number of books are less, so that it doesn't become very overwhelming for the children to see so many books lying around.
Hmm.
So that is how you can progress. So one
Correct.
is that. Another thing is, I feel uh, when you start with this journey and when you look for options, you will find so many of them in the city. So we have so many bookstores, and they host so many good storytelling sessions, even book swaps for children. So you can encourage the children to go to these places. A book swap is a very good idea where you can exchange books, and you can meet fellow readers, and you can understand what they are reading, and that's how it goes on. So I think once you start that journey and you're curious about it, you will come to know of these things. So 10 years back, if you had asked me, I was also clueless. But now, in these past 10 years, I have come across so many fellow readers, so many children who read, all these libraries. And I think, yeah, and it keeps on growing. So that's how it just happens.
That's great, Neha. And what is the name of the organization for other parents interested in it, Neha?
Yeah, so it's by the name Kidzalaya,
Okay.
and it is run by Anisha Tulsean. She has been
Got it.
running it for more than 10 years now.
Wow. So yeah, I'll include a link to that for any parents listening and that are interested in it. Please do follow that link if you're interested in accessing books. And it sounds like a wonderful initiative, as Neha mentioned. So Neha, we've jumped into so many different things about your journey, and I think it's so inspiring to see how adaptable, flexible, and curious you continue to remain. As you progress through your career, and also how empathetic and kind you were. And it's hard to say that for a lot of people, but you genuinely wanted to improve the students lives beyond just helping them get better grades. And I don't think a lot of teachers are able to do that because of time constraints and other challenges. So I think your work is so important and vital to young learners in the context that you're working in. But now, for this last part of the interview, Neha, I wanted to talk to you about your life as a reader. This will include a lot of recommendations because I think For the listeners tuning in, please do follow Neha's Instagram handle. Like, I think Neha does a great job creating short videos about books that she's reading, and you really see the passion and love for these books. But without revealing the plot, they tell you why you can read this book. And I know she has a special passion and love for thrillers. So Neha, tell me about your life as a adult reader. Like, what kind of phases have you gone through as an adult reader? What genres have you been more inclined to? And how have you built a community around reading that, because I think we met at a book discussion recently, and we were talking about how a book club discussion is a great way to extend your reading experience. So, just tell me about your journey as an adult reader and the highs and lows of that for you.
Okay. Uh, so I used to read a lot when I was in school, like I've already mentioned. But after that, there was a very dull period of like 10 years or so when I was into, studies. Then I got married. I was into corporate world. And that time I kind of lost touch with books, though I still felt I wanted to read, but I didn't have that much of time at hand where I could read so much. Then, when my eldest son was born, I started reading again, and I used to read to him a lot. And we used to do challenges like 100 books in a month, kind of challenges, and that kind of made me connect with reading again. And I started buying a lot of books and we read together, and I also started sharing those books with fellow mothers. And in that process we built a little community of readers, of my son's friends who are also readers. So, and now even now all the kids read and all the mothers also read. So that's one thing we did. And then later on, in 2015 was the actual time when I started looking at my personal reading, and I started reading again. I joined a few online book clubs where people would recommend books and people would discuss books. And then I came to know of Instagram and a small community over there called Bookstagram. And when I became a part of it, I felt like heaven has opened up for me, that there are so many people with like-minded views, and they all want to read together. And I came to know of the concept of buddy reading a book, that is reading a book for a particular duration and then discussing the book. So that helped me make a lot of friends. I came to know of a lot of genres, because earlier I used to only read thrillers. Then I came to know of historical fiction, then a lot of these literary fiction books. I knew about like the Booker Prize and all, but I never thought of reading those books. So over a period of years, I have started reading those books also. They are difficult reads, kind of, for someone who wants to read fast paced thrillers. But, uh, you know, when you're connected to so many other readers and you see them reading and bringing out such rich thoughts from the books, that you feel like you want to read those books and you want to understand the concepts the way the other people are understanding. So now I read like a lot of genres. So there's dystopian also. Recently started reading sci-fi, which is completely new for me, because I don't really enjoy those scientific terms and all, and I don't really understand them. But I want to do that because I think it's a very good genre and there are a lot of good books in that genre. So I'm kind of exploring that now.
No, and like, for you as a reader, Neha, like, um, this is like a little bit of an open-ended question, right, Neha? Like, how does, apart from the joy of being engaged in a story, how does reading improve your life, or what is it emotional? Is it imaginative? Is it learning? Is it comfort? Is it like a conversation with a friend? Like, if you had to articulate, um, how reading, what kind of joy does reading bring you? Can you like help me? Because I have an answer for this myself, but I know it's different for every reader. So what is it for you?
I think, Abhishek, it is a mix of everything, what you said.
Yeah.
You learn new things. You understand other people very well
Hmm.
when you read, because you come to know of different points of view which otherwise you would not. I feel it also makes you very flexible. You're not very rigid then, because you understand other people's point of view, and that is very important. Also, uh, it kind of, it definitely improves your vocabulary, and it definitely improves your understanding of things. It also brings a lot of people together, and respect for other readers, that there are books which I may have liked but someone else has not liked, but understanding why they have not liked it makes me empathetic towards them, that yeah, that's okay. I mean, there are people who may like the book, who may not like the book, and there are a lot of concepts which we otherwise would not come to know uh, had we not read the books. So, for example, if you talk about World War, so we understand World War as in uh, war, who were the allies, who were together, who were fighting. We know that, but we don't know the intimate stories of so many people who were closely involved there. And that is what books bring out, because the authors do a lot of research for writing those books. So that sometimes there are a lot of first hand information which gets generated into a fiction and then presented in a book, though it is fiction, but there is some reality to it, and that's what makes you understand all these situations very well.
Hmm. And do you feel like sometimes you read something in a book and you see a real life situation and you're able to process that better? Does that happen?
Yes,
It does.
it
Okay.
does. So just just for the context, uh, honestly, I never understood the LGBTQ community
Hmm.
until I read so much about them. And I now have so many friends from the community, and I mean, I totally understand their viewpoint now. So that
Yeah.
is something, that is one thing. And even now people don't want to talk about these things. So yeah, that's one thing, top of my mind.
Yeah, and like for me as well, like I think for mental health and grief, like, I found stories so much more powerful than direct advice, and sometimes even conversations with people. I found fiction very therapeutic to process difficult emotions, because at certain points, you just needed someone to sit with you. And, just because of personal reasons, I didn't have anyone at those points. And I thought, this is like a friend sitting with me, helping me, telling me their story, but also helping me um, patiently process my own emotions. So I love that. It's a way to look at new ideas, it's a way to learn about the world, and it's also a way to give you some comfort. Neha, can you give me some book recommendations from your last year of reading? I know as a bookstagrammer and a reviewer, you read like widely, and I will be linking your Instagram account in the handle as well, and you can tell us more about that towards the end of the podcast. But three recommendations in three different genres, and in the Little Live with Neha sort of like a format. Like if you could tell us what these books can give a reader and why they should read it.
Okay, so when it comes to book recommendations, my first pick would be a thriller, because I read a lot of thrillers. So I would say that thrillers by Frida McFadden, in case you want to just chill and just want to read a very fast paced book without thinking too much, and without thinking of the nuances of what has happened, because there are a lot of twists and turns in the books by her, and she writes really well, so they're very fast paced. I love all her works till now that I have read. uh, Recently I read a book, The White Lotus by Aditi Krishna Kumar. That book has stayed with me. It's a young adult book, but I feel it is equally relevant for the adults also to read. So it is a historical fiction. It talks about child marriage, child widowhood, and there's a little thriller element also there, but that's not a major part of the story. The major part is the condition of women during the British era. So that was one book which has stayed with me for a very long. I mean, it has made an impact on me, and it's a very great book. Then Strange Pictures by Uketsu, which is a very different kind of a thriller. It's the cases are solved through the pictures that are made by the characters in the books. So that book is very interesting. The way it is written, there are a lot of illustrations in the book because it talks about pictures. So and it's a Japanese thriller. So I think Japanese authors write very good thrillers. So there's a series called The Honjin Murders. So that's another set of 6 books which are amazing. Uh, yeah. And if you talk about historical fiction, I love books by Kristin Hanna. Uh, Last year I read The Women by her, and it was a very, very good book. It talks about the Vietnam War and the impact of that on the different women.
And like for discovering these books, Neha, like for someone like me, I love reading books, but sometimes I find it challenging to find new books. I use Goodreads or some of these social review sites, but according to you, for a reader that wants to find new books and stories and also talk about their reading experience, what are some suggestions and thoughts you would share?
I think visiting a bookstore is one thing that you must do because there are a lot of hidden gems which we find over there just by going through the books, by reading their blurbs. We come to know of certain books that are really good, but they are not so much on the social media. You won't find them so much over there. So that's one way. Talking to a lot of readers, I think book clubs are one thing that I really look forward to, because while we are discussing the books, we also kind of discuss some other books that the readers have read earlier,
Hmm.
which connects to the current book that we're discussing. So that's one way of finding out new books. And I kind of always try to attend any exhibitions or uh, some book fairs that go on where I can find some books. And of course, social media nowadays, we do if we are able to find good books over there, but it's becoming more of a commercial thing. So yeah, I won't say much about that. But
Yeah, and like for your journey as a bookstagrammer, Nia, like for someone starting off now, that just as a hobby wants to create something like that, because you've been doing this for quite some time. I know you told me it was 2019 when you started it. Um, and you told me that, you have a lot of thoughts and experiences about what this world is like. But um, any advice for someone that's starting off their own sort of handle in terms of what you've learned from your journey over the last 5 or 6 years?
uh, so I think when you start as a bookstagrammer, uh, you need to put out your original thoughts about the book without thinking that it has to be perfect in every way, because that never happens. You keep on learning. So even if I have been there for 6 years, but I still feel that I can do much better, and that journey never stops. So yeah, I think just starting is important and not thinking much about how are we putting our thoughts, is it the correct way, because there's no perfect way of putting your thoughts. The people have different ways in which they can articulate the reviews, and if you want to write written reviews on your blog, that's a wonderful thing to do. If you want to put up videos of you talking about the books, that's a good thing to start with. uh, you should also look at the different bookstagrammers or the different book bloggers who are there, and try to understand how they are putting their thoughts, and not exactly copying them, but then trying to get inspiration from them with respect to their book reviews, their style of reviewing. So that can help. And also, yeah, I think for 2 years I was also, doing a lot of review projects. So while now I'm not taking up review projects, but I feel that is also a good way to learn how to put your thoughts and to, understand how the entire kind of publishing industry works. It's good to work with publishers also sometimes to, and those free books are sometimes a good motivation to the new bookstagrammers to continue on this journey. So yeah, there's nothing wrong in that. And they should experience all these things and then come out with their own style of reviewing books. And I think that's how you grow.
That's great advice, Neha. And for someone that wants to reach you on the internet, what are some ways that they can reach out to you as a bookstagrammer and as a private tutor?
So I am on Instagram and my handle is lit with Neha. I often communicate a lot over there. A lot of readers, uh, we communicate there. So that's one way. I attend a lot of book clubs. So yeah, I mean, I do share a lot of stories about that. And I think that's one way you can connect to me. With respect to my tuitions, so that's most of my tuitions are offline, so I'm not sure, but yeah, I have started online. So in case people want to get in touch regarding studies, so again, I think Instagram is a good place where I can be reached out for that as well, though I don't put up a lot of stuff about my tuitions over there, but yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Neha. This was such a fun, enjoyable discussion, and I feel like in this 1 hour I was reading a book, about someone's life journey, and it's just very inspiring to see uh, how you navigated different phases in your life with kindness, empathy, and curiosity, right? And I think that's definitely something to learn from. And rather than look at challenges, you looked at it as opportunities to grow and learn, and you created new opportunities for yourselves at different times, and you were able to balance multiple responsibilities at the same time. So as someone looking at your life from the outside, I feel like there's a lot to learn, and from your experience, not just as a reader, as a tutor, but also as a parent, as a teacher. So thank you, Neha. I really enjoyed this.
Thank you, Abhishek. It was very nice being here, and thank you for all the kind words. I hope I'm able to create more readers and yeah, continue on that journey.
Great. So, on that note, we come to an end of this episode of Learning Stories. I will be linking the recommendations and handles that Neha has mentioned in the show notes. Stay tuned for more such stories. Again, the reason I created this podcast was to create a kinder and more empathetic version of the internet where we hold space for each other, but we also slowly learn to appreciate and understand the years of effort, sacrifice, love, and learning that it takes to build a career in any field. And Neha's journey shows us that there's the effort in the long run really is worth it. So until next time, keep learning.